So 29 people arrested on the first day of Arise Ghana's Krum Ayashi demonstration, which turned violent. They've all been granted bail. Stay on as we engage their lawyers, plus the leadership of the group here on The Pulse. My name is Kojo Yankson. The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. Remember, we're also streaming live on YouTube and all our social media handles at Joy News on TV. You can tweet at us with the hashtag #ThePulse. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Let's get started. Children of Ibrahim Mohammed, the Ejura-based social media activist whose murder sparked mass riots in the town, say they are still battling traumatic scenes from his death, 1 year after he was killed by unknown assailants. 2 of the 5 girls he left behind are unable to use the main entrance to their house just to avoid coming into contact with the bloody spot where their father was found unconscious in a pool of blood. Police said Ibrahim Mohammed, also known as Kaka Macho, was attacked on the head, possibly with a club, by his assailants as he entered his family house on his motorbike. My colleague Ohiming Tewia visited the Dagomba Line family house of the late activist at Ejura 1 year after his passing. And he's come through with this report.
Mohammed, a fashion designer noted for using social media platforms to address the ills in Ejura, died at the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital 3 days after he was attacked on June 26, 2021. Police say the late activist was attacked whilst entering the family house here at Dagomba Line in Ejura through this entrance, which then used to be a wooden gate.
Any day I entered the house, I remember the scene I saw that day. He was pulling his motorbike in. Then he was hit by the sticks. I realized maybe one is hiding here, one is hiding here. So they attacked him here. So he was lying in a pool of blood. At that fateful dawn when you come, this sport potholes is full of blood. The sticks were lying here, one there. The people have fled away.
Angered by the failure of police to arrest his suspected killers, the youth went on rampage, attacked the Ejura police station and vandalized property.
I called Lieutenant Kendall Pepra, commanding officer, 4 Battalion, to dispatch some of the teams of Operation Calm Light to provide protection.
A military reinforcement deployed on the orders of the Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei Mensah to maintain law and order ended up gunning down 2 more people.
Somebody in the military uniform kneeled down, aimed at somebody, shooting him down.
Those memories are still fresh on the minds of residents.
What happened was not something that the citizenry, for that matter, the opinion leaders, the chieftaincy institution, the assembly wanted, particularly the shedding of blood. It is an incident we do not want to remember.
Abulai Abubakar's younger brother, 25-year-old Abdul Nazil, a father of 1, was among the protesters who were killed. He died protecting the multimedia team who covered the protest.
That day I was together with him. After the cemetery, I came before him. On his way going, he met some of the youth. He made a ring with one of our junior brother, defending the media people to cover the demonstration. Some minutes we were here, they called and said they have shot him. I went to the hospital. I met him on the hospital bed, already dead. Just like that.
public hearings.
But despite receiving compensation from government on the recommendations of a committee of inquiry, his family wants to see the military officers who took part in the shooting punished.
We were not demanding for compensation. The government compensated it on his own wisdom and the love for the family. He did that, but we did not request for compensation. What we want is justice, nothing but justice. Nobody is supposed to be above the law of this country. So what we are calling for is he should come out and explain to Ghanaians why there are so many options of defending or controlling crowd. Then they decided to use live bullets. So we wanted a stop for this type of killing.
The family of Kaka Mechu, the man whose death sparked the protest, still bear the scars of the incident. A brother of the late activist shares the family's dilemma.
He has 5 daughters. 2 of them don't pass to their side. They feel that anytime they are passing, they see their father lying in the pool of blood. So there is another outlet at the other end through the mother's door. So they pass that end. Mistakenly, if the person gets here, you see him crying. So psychologically, the children have a lot. These are children. But as I'm telling you,
find the opportunity to mourn and pray for their departed relatives as authorities of the Ejura Municipal Assembly move to injunct activities earmarked to commemorate the 1-year anniversary of their death. Nafiu Mohammed and Abulai Abubakar are brothers of the late Kaka Mechu and Abdul Nazil.
we have been denied of our religious rights. What disgusts me was now the court that has been used as an obstacle to prevent the family from mourning their individuals. It's just a situation, I call it as a quack system. This thing will not happen in any proper country where democracy and rule of law is happening.
It is a very sad issue for the democracy of our country. We as a family lost our loved one 1 year now, and we decided to do some prayers for them as a Muslims, and we were denied to do that.
So why would the local assembly prevent the anniversary celebrations of the late activists and others who died whilst seeking justice for him? I caught up with the chief executive of the Ejura Municipal Assembly, Dr. Kingsley Osei.
The traditional council, the assembly, and the Muslim community came together and organized 1 year anniversary in a form of prayer session for the departed souls, the 3 of them. In fact, the chief imam, or for that matter, the Muslim community, demanded a bull as part of a sacrifice to aid the 1 year prayer session for the departed, and it was provided. So we felt that thing had been done. We at the MISEC, who are in charge of security, feel and think that allowing them to go ahead with that celebration or observation could, in parenthesis, bring about another uprising, and we wouldn't want that to happen.
From Ejura in the Ashanti region for Joy News, Ohiming Tewia reporting.
Ohiming Tewia from our security desk filed that report. He joins us now. Ohiming, thanks for your time. We know that 3 suspects, as well as a brother of the deceased, have been granted bail while the case remains in court. You've been following this story. Why has justice been seemingly delayed? It's been 12 months.
Yes, Kojo, this is $1 million question
yet to be answered by the Judicial Service. As far as I am concerned as a reporter, following the developments of the story, especially in court, what I have realized is that in the past 1 year, I have been in court not less than 40 times, following the trial of 3 suspects, 2 of whom were NPP polling station executives in Ejura, and a brother of the late social media activist, Idi Mohammed, whose name came up following allegations by some woman, a woman who claims to have seen the brother attack the younger social media activist who is now deceased. For the past, let me say, 3 months that we've been in court, we've been at one particular stage where we are told the case docket has been forwarded to the Attorney General's office, pending advice from the Attorney General. So first, 2 of the suspects were granted bail after their lawyers seek the attention of the higher court, that is the Kumasi High Court. The case is pending at the Asokwa District Court. So the lawyers filed for bail application at the Kumasi High Court, of which it was granted for the 2 of the suspects who were arrested earlier, even before the brother of the late social media activist was also picked up. So later in the day, we also heard that the family has also filed for a bail for the 3rd accused, who is Baba Idi, and his was also granted by the court in that regard. So what we do know is that on the 4th of next month, the case will come up again for hearing, but I'm unable to say what will transpire in court because all these we've been at the stage where the Attorney General or the AG's office is yet to advise on the case. And this is a development that has somehow, forced the Kaka Mecho's family to complain bitterly with the fact that looking at where they are, having had the burden of taking care of the 5 children and the wife left behind by the late social media activists, they are also being forced to pay for the services of a lawyer for that of their relative, and as well as also ensure justice for the deceased social media activists. So that has been the burden of the family. And yesterday, when I spoke to the family spokesperson, Nafi Mohammed, he did indicate that for them, they think that justice is not being served as far as the family is concerned. And they would have wished that adjudication of this particular case is, pushed a bit further or fasted so that they can have that opportunity and also be comforted as far as the case is concerned.
From what you describe, it would seem the case hasn't really proceeded at all. But have we had the opportunity to hear the theory that the investigators or the prosecution are working with? Do they believe that these 3 accused worked together in the commission of this crime?
It is a bit difficult to say what probably is the mind of the prosecutors, but following this particular case, what I have realized is that police, just on the 28th of June 2021, even before the death of Kaka, the 2 MPP polling station executives were picked up. So they had already been picked up before the man's death. And we are told it was in the evening when they had attempted, in a way to escape from attack from the angry youth who had then pointed accusing fingers at the 2 MPP polling station executives for their involvement. And they suspected that they were involved. So after they managed to flee the scene, later on, police picked them. And then 2 days later, police also picked Idi Mohammed upon listening to what police says is an eyewitness's account. That is when Idi Mohammed, the elder brother of the late social media activist, was also picked up. So it is unclear as to whether police would amend their charge sheet to indicate that these three persons committed the act in concert, or they committed these acts separately. But having had the opportunity to go through the charge sheet, the indication is that the first two accused persons were believed to have, committed the act together. But later on, when the Idi Muhammad's case came up, then what we are learning is that Idi Muhammad case is what police will want to pursue. So for me, following this case, I won't be surprised to hear that in the next court hearing, the prosecutors will file a case indicating that they want to acquit and discharge the two MPP polling station executives for probably want of prosecution, and then concentrate on the Idi Muhammad, who is the eldest brother of the late social media activist, upon which they have some way gotten evidence or witnesses to testify against the accused person. So it is still unclear though, but like I said, this is comes as because I have followed the case and followed the developments in the court and what has come up, especially when these eyewitnesses were also appeared before the committee of inquiry and testified before the committee that indeed this particular woman witnessed the act and saw the brother of the late Ibrahim Muhammad committing that act. That probably could be the next line or a particular line the police prosecutors will want to tow.
Now, obviously, this is a case that garnered international attention. An entire commission was set up to look into the subsequent, what caused the subsequent riots and killings. How does the community feel about the fact that even the original alleged murder is yet to have its case concluded? How do they feel about the chances of justice being found for the killings of those who died during the riots?
For residents and natives of Ejura, they are divided as to whether the people involved have been served with justice. There's this school of thought from one angle that having had a listening government, few days after the incident, a commission was set up, and then some suspects were picked up and they were held in custody for several months. That actually satisfied their curiosity that indeed efforts are being made, something is being done, and duly justice will be served, to the extent that government has paid compensation to some of the affected family members, especially those who lost their relatives. So this somehow gives them confidence that the system will work. There are others who also believe that, yes, beyond the payment of compensation and the arrest of the three suspects, they still believe that something more can be done. And when they say something more can be done, then they are talking about prosecution of police and the military officers found to have misconducted themselves and involved in the shooting to death of two other lives, or two other youth members of the community who were shot and killed. So these are the perspectives that the residents of Ejura share. There are some who want to hear that police and some military officers have been prosecuted and brought to book for their involvement in the act. And there are others who also want to hear that 2 or 3 people who are standing trial are convicted for their involvement in the killing of the late Ibrahim Muhammad.
Right. Now, we know that Kaka's death resulted in a protest that turned chaotic, leading to the death of 2 persons and injuries to at least 3 others. A ministerial committee was tasked to investigate the matter. Let's have a very quick recap of some of the recommendations that the committee made. So, first of all, the committee recommended adequate compensation for the families of the 2 deceased persons, namely Abdul Nasir Yusuf and Mutala Suraj Muhammad. Adequate compensation must also be paid to other injured persons, namely Louis Ayipa, 20 years old, and Awal Misbao, a 16-year-old. Also, Nasif Nuhu, who is 30 years old. These are the names known to the committee. 2, the committee recommends the immediate transfer of the District Police Commander of Ejura, DSP Philip Kojo Hammond, first for his incompetence in handling the situation, and for the fact that his relationship with the community seems to have been damaged beyond repair. 3, we further recommend the structural expansion of the Ejura Police Station and an increase in personnel. 4, we recommend the removal of the Ejura Sechiredumasi Municipal Chief Executive, Mohammed Salisu Bamba, since his continuous presence as MCE would exacerbate the already tense security situation in Ejura. 5, it is further recommended that the military establishment review the actions of the section on the ground led by Lieutenant Martin Opoku Eduse for the inappropriate use of force and apply appropriate sanctions. 6, we further recommend the training of RegSec, MUSEC, and DISEC officials in the Ashanti region in conflict and crisis management at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College at least once every year. 7, we recommend the development of a joint standard operative procedure, SOP, for military and police operations, including roles for indispensable allied agencies like the National Investigations Bureau, NADMO, Ghana National Fire Service, National Ambulance Service, etc. 8, if we can go back, 8, we further recommend that the NCCE should intensify its public education in relation to the rights, obligations, and civic responsibilities of the people of Ejura. 9, it is further recommended that all crowd or riot or crisis control units be made to wear body cams, and all vehicles and mobile gadgets employed must also have cameras. 10, we recommend the establishment of a sports and other recreational facilities in Ejura under the Zongo Development Fund so as to rechannel the energies of the youth. And those are the 10 recommendations that were submitted by the committee that looked into the rioting and killings in Ejura following the alleged murder of Kaka. So to what extent have these recommendations been implemented? Joining me now via Zoom is Nafiu Mohammed. He is a member of the Joint Committee for Ejura Victims. He's also the cousin of Ibrahim Mohammed, also known as Kaka. It's a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Now, as a member of the Joint Committee for Ejura Victims, are you satisfied with the extent to which events have panned out so far?
Once again, thank you very much. I'm highly dissatisfied with what is really happening. So with the happening, we as a family or families are not happy at all with the happenings.
All right. Now, tell us, what were you expecting and what has been done and what remains to be done?
Actually, with the organization of the program as scheduled, we planned together as families. Then we communicated to the traditional council through the Ejura Hene. He accepted it, and we proceeded from that point. To a point, he set a committee to also help in that work. It was to a point that we were in cooperation together, but the committee told us as a family, we have already planned our program, and we have a program lineup for that. So the committee, the chief setup, also brought up a different program lineup. So we said, what should be done? So the suggestion of the committee is for the families to put their program lineup down, to cancel their program so that they will give us a different program. So that was where we did not understand each other. And as a family, we said we will still go with our program. And the traditional council also said they will also do their own. So from that, we continue to do our organization. In the midst of our organization, we had a call from the Municipal Security Council. They invited us there. So as a matter of fact, I went with a brother of late Abdul Nasir Yusuf to the meeting. At the meeting, we were made to understand the fact that, don't we know that Ejura is organizing a program? In context, you understand that Ejura is solely organizing the program. He only made information known to the Zongo chiefs and the imam that he wanted them to organize a program. They were not part of the organization. So we as a family have gone through all the traditional council with our family members. We went to the Zongo chiefs, we went to the imam, we sat down with the imam, we sat down with the leadership before bringing out that program out. So at the music meeting, we were made to understand that since Ejura is organizing a program on that cause of our late brothers, we as a family cannot organize any different program. So we made them to understand that we are organizing it as a family members. It's our brothers who are late. So, but we were told vehemently that we cannot hold a program. It got to a point that one member of the committee told us that if we want to organize such prayer, that prayer can only be held in our hometown, not in Ejura. So upon that, we had little misunderstanding, I say, because we do not understand them, because saying Ejura is holding a program, we cannot have it. This is against our religious rights or our freedom of worship and freedom of assembly. So we told them that if you have any reason, it's better you tell others to tell us that Ejura is holding it, so we cannot hold that. So from there, we proceeded with our organization. So we told them at the committee, at the music meeting, that we are going to inform our family, since we are representatives. We are going to inform the family. We were told right there that when we even go and inform them, the same day they invited us at the meeting, the same day the program for the Ejura is taking on. So if even we go, we are just going to inform our family the program has taken place and we cannot hold any program. So as in Asantis, we say, so we told them still we are going to inform our family members so that we will revert to them and give them the information. Hopefully the coming Monday, that was just past Monday, we did inform them in writing and reply them with the questions they asked us. And we clearly indicate that there has not been any established reason to us to quit what we are intending to do. And if they have anything to tell us, that's why we have informed every stakeholder involved in this matter. Nobody who is within Ejura as a security person, we do not inform. We informed the police, we sat down with the police. We invited the police, even to the point we told them that we would give them a platform to talk to the youth, to serve as a reconciliation on what happened last year. So we did that with them. So hopefully this is what we were up to with them. We discussed every matter in consultation with everybody. So we were there. On the same Monday, we supplied the letter, we gave them the letters. We're giving another letter that they are inviting our family members, that is our grandfathers, our mothers, to a music emergency meeting. They went to the meeting. After the meeting, what they concluded is to injunct the program. And in simple terms, what we intend to do in the letter, the program is happening on the 30th. That's today. Our plan was to have the program today. So what we are going to do is, first, we are going as early as 6 a.m., we are going to the cemetery to do cleanup exercise. This is where the 3 individuals were buried. We are going to do cleanup exercise. The place is bushy because it's rainy season. The place is bushy. We are going to weed, clean the place. If we have weedicides, we spray it with our spraying machines. Then after that is done, The youth we convert back with the leadership of the chief imam. He is in consultation. Every arrangement with the chiefs, we inform them. Everybody is aware with our arrangement. The chief imam has embraced, and he is even to lead the Quranic recitation. What is the importance of doing that?
So are you saying that this is what you will do today, or this was your plan, which you can no longer do?
Good. That was the plan.
That was the plan. Okay, please go ahead.
Good. So that was the plan to do. So after the cemetery, we converge by 10 a.m. at a junction in Ejura called Mamididi Junction, where the families and the organization, all stakeholders have been invited. Then we sit down. What we are going to do there is just to recite the Holy Quran. The importance or the significance of the recitation of the Holy Quran is in two phases. One is to pray for the lost ones to have eternal mercy and peace. Two is to pray for Ejura, for bumper harvest. We are in rainy seasons. For bumper harvest and peace to reign in Ejura. Right. And lastly is to pray for the entire nation, Ghana at large, to have peaceful coexistence.
Right.
Now, to even tell you, the main theme for the program we were organizing is peace building towards enhancing reconciliation within the community.
Okay.
This is the theme.
Now, the police has, sought an injunction to stop you from doing all that you've described. What's the next step? What will you do next?
Actually, as at now, the family is in consultation, in discussion, the way forward. As we circulated within our press release, within short period, the family is going to hold a press conference to address every issue from the first day the case happened till date and the happenings within the case.
Okay, very well. We'll look out for that press conference. And of course, as always, our thoughts are with you and your family. Condolences once again for the loss. And that
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you. That was Nafiu Mohammed. He's a member of the committee that was set up for the victims of the Ejura violence. Now, Member of Parliament for Ejura Secretary Dumase Alhaji Bawa Brahma Mohammed has taken on the police for stopping the commemoration of the brutalities meted out to some of his constituents by state security agencies. Now, the family of the victims had planned a traditional Islamic prayer, as you just heard described, but the police have since secured an injunction against that event. He spoke to Joy News' parliamentary correspondent Kwekwa Sante, and he said that the action by the police does not help to consolidate peace in the constituency. Let's hear him.
Going to hold 1 year prayers of Adua for the deceased. That will be tomorrow, Thursday. And they were even seeking for some support from me. So later on, they sent me an injunction that had been served on them as party. It means that they were not even called to the court. The police are going to take an injunction for whatever reason. I sitting here, I don't know. But I believe that to somebody to lose their relatives, young ones, as this, and they want to commemorate the annual event, and they are being prevented, I believe it's not in the best direction. I don't know under which condition or who prompted the police to go for this injunction, but injuncting the people from their constitutional right of performing the funeral of the young guys who died, in such bizarre circumstances, and then the state injecting them, I believe it's not. It's not fair. It's not. In the best interest of peace and security.
Now, Alhaji Bawa Brahma Mohammed also lamented the non-payment of compensation to some of the victims. Although the families of those who lost their lives have been compensated, he claims that there are still some, particularly those injured, who are yet to receive compensation.
1 year on since the disturbances in Ejura, relative to the lynching and passing on of Kaka, then one will say that to me, the victims, those who lost their lives, after the burial of Kaka, during the disturbances, have not gotten justice. I'm saying this because apart from those who lost their lives, we had those who were injured. As I speak with you now, there's a young guy called Muhammad Awal, about 19 to 20 years, who got his limb amputated. And up to now, nothing, not even a farthing, has been advanced to him in the form of compensation as recommended by the Justice Council Committee. And then also there was another guy who also had sustained a gunshot injury in the stomach, who was operated upon, and as a result of the injury, he's not able to work as he's supposed to do. He has also been compensated. The last time, as a member of the Defense and Interior Committee, when we met the security chiefs, I asked the Minister for Interior why, as at now, they have not been compensated, and was saying that they were waiting for an assessment from the medical team before they will be able to assess the quantum of compensation that will be advanced to them. But I feel that for 1 year, if you cannot, I mean, if this injury, when it happened, they were taken to Komanochi, it was doctors who worked on them, and up to now they cannot assess the degree of injury to know the compensation that we are advanced to them. I feel like this certainly cannot be true, because at least 1 year on, when the medical officers who worked on these injured persons are there, this certainly cannot be true.
That's the MP for Ejura, Sechre Dumase. Now, we still have Ohimin Tewia from our security desk, who's been following the story from its very beginning. Ohimin, this injunction, a bit of a mystery for us. Why exactly did MUSEC decide to injunct the 1 year celebration of or commemoration of the killings in Ejura?
The MUSEC had argued that a similar event led by the Ejura Mahine and that of the Zongo chiefs and the traditional authorities had planned, and it actually came to pass. Muslim prayers were held for the victims inside the central mosque of Ejura. So when the two other families wanted to hold a similar event, the MUSEC, extended some sort of olive hands to them to come and join the one being organized by the traditional authorities and the Sarki Zongo and the chief imam. But they decided not to, come around to be part of that particular program. But MUSEC thinks that having listened to the two families, for instance, their line of program for the day would have been that they would take a procession to the cemetery where the deceased persons were, buried, and also embark on a cleanup exercise at the cemetery. MUSEC suspected that if they allow this organization to fester, then there could be a recipe or a repeat of the 28th June event, which turned out to be chaotic.
Why do they feel that might happen?
Yes, Kojo, they think that, yes, they are saying that they were doing the program in conjunction with Fix the Country, where they were inviting the youth to come and be part of this commemoration. MUSEC thinks that, in the first place, a similar incident on June 28th led to riots in the community and brought security at a standstill in Ejura. So, having learned and taken a cue from that particular event, there was a need to manage the situation very well, and they engaged the organizers of the event to ensure that even the Muslim prayers, according to the chief imam and the traditional authorities, the Zongo chiefs, could be done, is something that is done indoor, but not even on the cemetery or anywhere. And so they would have agreed and subscribed to the fact that if it was to be an indoor event, leaving the street procession to the cemetery and the rest out of the program, that would have been granted. And so the municipal chief executive, Dr. Kingsley Osei, says, and when they met the two families, that was the message they sent across. But the family never came back when they extended the invitation to them to come and join the one being organized by the Zongo chiefs, the chief imam, and then the traditional council in that regard.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much for that update, Himing.
Yeah.
Himing Terry, of course, with our security desk. The story will continue to unfold, and we'll bring you all the details here. But now, let's look at some other stories. Lawyers for the 29 people arrested on the first day of Arise Ghana's Krum Ayeshe demonstration, which turned violent, say they have all been granted bail. A charged crowd gathered at the Obra spot on Tuesday, determined to march through the Ring Road to the Jubilee House to present concerns on the high cost of living, bad governance, corruption, insecurity, among other things. However, pushback by the police turned chaotic. The second day of the protest was quite peaceful. Leadership of Arise Ghana Group presented their petition to the Ministry of Finance and Parliament, asking for immediate government intervention. Here's Matulak Bagba with a wrap of the two-day demonstration.
Prior to the protest, there was a back and forth between organizers and the Ghana Police Service. The disagreement was mainly about the route for the protest and the time. The Ghana Police Service had argued that with the threats of terrorism on West African coastal states, it wasn't proper for the protest to go deep into the night. The protesters and the organizers of the demonstration disagreed. The matter ended up in court with a court ruling that the protest should take place from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. It also set a defined route for the protest. On the day of the protest, there were disagreements. Organizers of the protest had argued they had filed a stay of execution on that particular ruling by the court, and that puts that ruling by the court in abeyance. Police also disagreed and said it was implementing the order that it got from the court on the defined route that should be used. The situation degenerated and turned chaotic when some of the protesters started pelting police with stones. Police fired tear gas to disperse the riotous crowd. Ghana Police Service said it was also compelled to use water cannons to disperse the crowd. 12 police officers were injured. Some protesters were also injured in the process. The second day of the protest was very peaceful. A litany of issues triggered the protest. Key amongst them was the electronic transactions levy, which came into effect some weeks ago, despite opposition from many people that it would bring untold hardship on them. Currently, there are about 12 taxes and levies on the price of fuel, which contributes to the price buildup and how much people pay at the pumps to get fuel. The organizers say that the cost of fuel is too much, and they are calling on governments to eliminate some of the taxes and levies imposed on fuel, which is contributing to what they describe as the astronomical price build-up. National Communications Officer of the main opposition party in Ghana, NDC, Sami Jemfi, has been speaking about some of their concerns.
When we go to the pumps, whether you are NDC or MPP, you will pay 61 Ghana cedis for a gallon of diesel today under the insensitive Akufo-Addo Bawumia government, whereas we were paying only 14 Ghana cedis for a gallon of diesel and petrol in 2016. This has had a negative cascading effect on prices. Never in the history of this fourth republic, never in my adult life have I seen inflation hovering around 27, 28%. This is unprecedented. Are all suffering. The only people chilling is President Akufo-Addo, Vice President Bawumia, and their cabal of family and friends who continue to milk the state coffers dry, who continue to travel in ultra-luxurious and hyper-expensive private jets at the expense of the poor Kenyan taxpayer. We are saying that we can't take that. We have had enough of the wastage and the corruption and the looting of state assets. We shall rest not until the prices of fuel comes down drastically. We shall rest not until this government is held accountable for how they expended COVID-related funds. We shall rest not.
The protesters submitted a petition to the Parliament of Ghana and the Ministry of Finance. If a Deputy Finance Minister, Abna Osei Asare, received the petition on behalf of government. She said government will, in the coming days, roll out policies and programs to mitigate the impact of the harsh economic conditions many Ghanaians are facing. She says on Monday, government engaged some stakeholders on what can be done to also deal with the high cost of the prices of food.
I'm happy to announce to you that government has already started meeting relevant stakeholders to see how best we can address this economic situation that has arisen as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russian-Ukraine war. On Monday, government with the relevant ministers met some important stakeholders on the rising food prices. Government will continue to meet all the relevant stakeholders and make sure that together we come out with policies and programs that will address the issues that you have raised here today.
All right then. Now, Transport Minister Kweku Ofori-Asiamah has told Parliament that the Ghana Airport Company Limited did not breach the procurement laws in awarding a contract to Frontiers Healthcare Limited to test for COVID-19 at the airport. The deal has come under intense scrutiny, with some civil society organizations and opposition MPs alleging corruption. The testing regime, although relaxed, is still being undertaken at the airport. Kweku Ofori-Asiamah explained to Parliament that the airport company complied fully with the procurement laws. But his answer did not satisfy MP for Tamale Central Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, who asked the original question. He called on the minister to present the contract between the airport company and Frontiers to Parliament. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante has more. Right. Now, of course, we're going to bring you Kweku Asante's full coverage and update on what happened when the Minister for Transport was in Parliament to answer that urgent question. Of course, you will recall that the Frontiers deal came under intense criticism when it was found that the contract between the Ghana Airport Company and Frontiers resembled more a tenancy agreement than a contract spelling out the role that Frontiers is to play. There were details of a revenue split for the activity of Frontiers, but that again raised some questions which Parliament was seeking to get answers to. We are learning that the Transport Minister stated to Parliament that there was nothing wrong with the contract. It did not breach procurement rules. But of course, Mr. Murtala Mohammed, who is the Minority Chief Whip, wants details. He wants to see evidence of this. We have Kweku Asante joining us now. Kweku, thanks for your time.
Transport Minister Kweku Ofori-Asiamah, government did not breach any procurement laws when it went ahead to sign that contract with Frontiers Ghana Limited. Indeed, the contract came under intense criticism at the time from both civil society organizations and some political parties who raised those specific concerns about why government had to select only Frontiers Ghana Limited. Indeed, people have raised some specific concerns about corruption. Of course, they've not provided some evidence to back these claims that corruption is involved in this deal, but there are those who still believe that government should have come clean in terms of opening this process up to state institutions like Noguchi and the likes for them to implement the testing regime at the airport. The minister has been explaining that the Ghana Airport Company Limited completely followed or obeyed the public procurement laws when it decided that Frontiers Healthcare Services Limited was the best company to lead in this effort at testing at the airport. And so when this answer was provided in Parliament, Murtala Mohammed, Kojo, like you said, was not satisfied with the response that was given. He insisted that the company should have been opened up in terms of its funding for the public to be able to know how much they were making and how much the airport company was also making. We know that $150 was the charge when the testing airport at the company started. All these issues have become a bit murky because the answers were not given. And the Speaker of Parliament has now directed the minister to present documents of the specific contract that was signed between both the Ghana Airport Company Limited as well as the Frontiers Healthcare Services to Parliament next week. And so next week we are likely to see the copy of the document that was signed between these two entities. But Kojo, that is not the only issue that have come up in Parliament. McDonald's operation at the airport has also become a key issue with the Minister of Transport answering some questions. We know that just some months back, McDonald's Company Limited was cited for some breaches of regulatory issues at the Kotoka International Airport when it opened its Terminal 3 to start operating. And so you look at the issues that have come in now, the Transport Minister has been responding that although these specific breaches they can confirm, they can also say that these breaches does not necessarily warrant sanctions. Indeed, the question stood in the name of the North Tongue MP, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, who was seeking to know that if procurement breaches has been established against the company, why have there been no sanctions against the company? But the minister, Kojo Yankson, says that not all such sanctions should be proffered against the breaches that have been laid against McDonald Company. But we also know that Haruna Idrisu, the minority leader, raised concerns about McDonald Aviation's indebtedness to the Ghana Airport Company Limited and when they are going to fulfill that obligation to the company. The minister explained that the company, both McDonald Aviation and the Ghana Airport Company, had come to an agreement in terms of how they are going to pay this amount of money. And the project implementation is underway right about now, and they are satisfied with the kind of commitment that McDonald has made to Parliament. Kojo.
Right. Thank you, Kweku, for that update from Parliament. Regarding the urgent question that the Transport Minister was there to answer. And of course, we're hearing now that McDonald Aviation, according to the Transport Minister, has, in collaboration with the Ghana Airport Company Limited, met all the requirements that were set for them to resume operations. So we will be awaiting the outcome of that. Listen, this is The Pulse. We're doing it for you. We're back with more after these. You're welcome back. Now, the director of the Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, Professor Kwesi, has praised former President John Mahama for being tolerant to divergent views that were expressed during his tenure as president. According to Professor Kwesi, he could vociferously criticize the former president and still sleep soundly after such critique. Speaking at the John Evans Atta Mills Memorial Lecture for Central and Western Regions, he indicated that the general security was about being tolerant of different forms and different ideas, of diverse opinions, and the former president was an embodiment of such values.
Security is for the farmer to wake up at 4 a.m. and go to farm without fearing. True security is about our mothers leaving at 2:30 a.m., traveling for 300 kilometers to go and shop, and knowing they will get to that market and to come back home. True security is about ensuring that you can walk up to a police officer and say, I am lost, and he will not say, how much would you want to pay? True security is about ensuring that people don't stop us on the highways and demand that we pay before we leave, even when there is no basis for that intimidation. True security is when we have an outlet to complain, and when the complaint is done, we have the sense that something has been done about it. Genuine security is about being tolerant about different forms and different ideas, of diversity of opinion. And here I want to celebrate and salute former President John Mahama. I criticized him. And he knows it. I never spared him. but I also slept soundly. I criticized former President Mahama so much that every time he came to the Kofi Annan Center, he said, let me see if Prince is there so that I can recognize him. So he doesn't criticize me. So thank you very much. What we learned from Professor Mills relates to the tricky nexus between the law and ensuring that we get security. That is dialogic, that is consensual, that is engaging, and that allows for discourses. The challenge of security governance here is about restoring the fundamental values of those security institutions and ensuring their sustenance through autonomous watchdog institutions.
Now, still at the event, the 2020 running mate of the National Democratic Congress, Professor Nana Jane Opoku Agyeman, described attacks on protesters in the country as worrying, a practice that did not find place during the era of the former President John Evans Atta Mills. Now, she says the former president would always stand tall in the protection of the fundamental human rights and democracy of the country.
We never have conceived of a plan making our university graduates, after years of learning and preparation, march in the heat of the sun to salute you and be compensated with temporary jobs in the place where trained ones are unemployed. I go away with a deep sense of his integrity, his respect for humanity, his determination to alleviate hardship, to be truthful, to willingly give an account of his stewardship without threat from anyone, parliament or not. That if you were in power, students who wanted to study law would not have been met with a spray of hot water. Like your successor, these the demonstrators could have occupied Ghana, allowed their votes to count, without a policeman captured aiming a gun and a stone as peaceful demonstrators. Confirming that the security agents can arm themselves with same and get away with it, and even aim guns at demonstrators. To commemorate you, Prof, is to bemoan the rapidly deteriorating human attributes, variously described as respect, dignity, integrity, tolerance, truthfulness, generosity, and whatsoever is of good report and of good repute. We will remember and celebrate you for living these
Now, former President John Mahama has proffered some solutions to the Akufo-Addo-led government to implement in order to save Ghana's ailing economy. According to him, if fiscal discipline is not ensured, Ghana is likely to become broke like Sri Lanka. The former president was speaking at an inaugural launch of a think tank, Think Progress Ghana. The theme was Ghana's debt burden, reflections and solutions. Mahama also suggested that President Akufo-Addo should immediately, among other measures, fire his finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, because he has failed the country. My colleague Samuel Mbura attended that inaugural launch. He joins us now in the studio and has more detail. Some sweeping suggestions there from the former president. Tell us about this event and the main thrust of the former president's message.
Well, the former president was worried about the fact that the country is not moving in the right direction. He said as at the time he left office, the country was in the right direction, taking into consideration the fiscal policies that his government implemented. So is now worried that the Akufo-Addo-led government that promised the people of Ghana of good governance is not driving the country in the right direction. He says that the government is over-borrowing and still there's nothing to show. And he thinks that government should ensure fiscal discipline. There should be frugality in expenditure, despite the fact that Ghanaians are raising concerns about the state of the economy, the president is living an extravagant life. Most of his ministers are not also performing, and that's why he made reference to the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, and he is of the view that Ken Ofori-Atta has failed the country, so he should fire him immediately and also do some reshuffling of the ministers, especially those who are not performing, and he thinks that some are considering their personal interests above the job that they have been given, especially those who have political ambitions.
Right, so he made recommendations.
Yeah, so the recommendations amongst them has to do with the firing of the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, and then the reshuffling and bringing together technocrats in the country to see how they can work together in dealing with the challenge that we have in the country.
All right, let's see if we can get some excerpts of that.
To wait for a new common framework for debt treatment beyond DSSI before we act on a precarious debt situation. While the president is lamenting about the non-renewal of DSSI, we cannot say we're waiting for the international community to come with a new program before we begin to do something about our debt. We would have gone the Sri Lanka way long before that new program will be available. We should also note that even if those two initiatives are renewed, they will not be enough to address our problem, given how far our economy has deteriorated in the last 2 years, and the current structure of our debt, which is heavily tilted towards commercial loans. Debt restructuring has therefore become unavoidable if we are to overcome the present economic problem. The president must make the big and very important call and begin the process to restructure our debt before we become like Sri Lanka, which has sunk into unimaginable economic and social crisis. For those of you who watch CNN and other news channels, you see what is happening in Sri Lanka. Even more importantly, the unbridled and unsustainable borrowing must stop immediately. Like I said, they must put a moratorium on additional non-concessional borrowing. We can no longer afford to dither and fiddle while our economy heads for the precipice. The consequence of that will be too grave to comprehend. Meanwhile, it will serve the president well to use some items from the presidential toolkits in times of crisis such as this. There's a toolkit with some items in it that presidents can use when they are faced with this kind of crisis. The first is he should address the nation and explain the situation in which we are, and rally the support of the citizens behind any economic program that he wants to put forward. The second is he should fire his finance minister. And the third is he should conduct a major shake-up of his government to remove all the many dead woods that have turned ministries into their kingdoms. And then finally, he should huddle with the best brains of this country to formulate a comprehensive recovery plan for our economy. Unfortunately, even though I said some of this in my first speech at Ghana at the Crossroads, the president has refused to take any of these measures. He no longer talks to the people, no major address to the people about our current situation, no interviews with the press. And so definitely, I don't know when he's going to take advantage. His finance minister is his cousin. He's afraid to fire him, or because of the relations they have, he's not inclined to do so. Many of the ministers who have pretended over ministries that are non-performing have some political links with the president, and therefore it makes it impossible for him to remove them from their positions, even when he himself can see that some of those ministers have presidential ambitions. And I mean, it should be easy for you to remove them so that they can concentrate on their presidential ambitions, but not this president. I suggested to him to do a Senchi-style forum, like we did, gather all the best brains in the country to think through, because they say, Nyansa ni obako fotim. And so if you gather all the best brains and bring them together, no matter their political inclination, suggestions will come out that will help you come up with a proper fiscal consolidation policy that you can take to any multilateral institution in order that you get some relief.
Former President John Dramani Mahama there says the current president does not take his advice. Now, yesterday, following, in fact, 2 days ago, following the rather riotous start to the Krumayashi demonstration, there was some arrests. 29 people were arrested for the mayhem that ensued at Obra Sport. Their lawyer, Lawyer Abraham Amaleba, joins us now with the very latest in the case. We understand that they have been given bail. But Lawyer Amaleba, good morning and good afternoon. Sorry, thank you for your time. We understand you were denied access to your clients on the first day of their detention. Tell us more.
Well, let me say good afternoon to your viewers. That is true. Yesterday was a difficult day for lawyers for the suspects. It was difficult to get information from the CID as to their whereabouts, but through our own ingenuity, we were able to figure out where they were. And as I said yesterday, they were put in various police stations across the city: Tesano, Nima, Osu, and then La. So we had interactions with them. But today, I'm happy to inform you that they have been granted bail. At around 11:30 to 11:45, bail was granted to all 27. Earlier on, 2 were granted bail based on ill health. And so 27 have been granted bail today. And so as I speak to you, lawyers are at all the police stations. Lawyers are at all the police stations assisting them in trying to execute their bail bonds.
Now, were they charged with anything?
I specifically asked the investigator in charge, but what he told me was that for now, we should concentrate on the bail, and then that can come later on. But it's the bail which is important, and they have been granted bail. But they were in charge. They were in charge.
Right. If individuals are arrested, kept for 48 hours or less, and then released without a charge, is that bail, or are they simply free to go?
So that is now left to the suspects and their lawyers, if no charge is being preferred, for us to now decide whether we will want to bring action against the police for curtailing their freedoms. If there's no basis for their incarceration, then for me that's the cause for action. It also amounts to infringing upon their fundamental human rights and an abuse of the Constitution.
Now, we're aware that the police announced their intent to arrest the leaders of the demonstration for Monday's uproar. Has that happened? Has the police communicated anything about this intention? Has anyone been arrested?
I didn't get that. The line was not clear at that point.
I said the police announced their intent to arrest the organizers of the demonstrations because of the unrest of the first day.
So yesterday there was a press statement that was released by the police to this effect. I can tell you that the organizers, some were with me at the CID headquarters to assist in securing bail for the 29. That didn't come up. The police administration did not raise that with us. And so as we speak now, there's no formal invitation to the organizers of the demonstration by the police. There's no such invitation to them.
What would be your response if such an invitation or if such an arrest is effected by the police as they said they would? What is your strategy? We are a country of laws. I do not think that
the organizers will run away from the law, we will want to know, first of all, what law have they broken. And so if they are invited, we will go with them. The legal team will go with them, and then we will go through the process. It's not something that the legal team would advise the organizers not to respond to the call of the police. So if such an invitation is thrown to the organizers, I can tell you that they are willing to appear before the police.
Mr. Amalaba, thank you very much for that update. Ibrahim Amalaba there, he's the lawyer for the 29 protesters who were arrested by the police following the violence that was unleashed on the first day of the Krum demonstration organized by the Arise Ghana group. All right, now chiefs and traditional rulers in the Upper East region say that they are committed to taking steps in modifying old widowhood rights that are injurious and infringe on the fundamental human rights of widows. The chiefs made this commitment after the Widows and Orphans movement led widows in the Upper East region to issue a communique appealing to the Regional House of Chiefs to have these dangerous widowhood rights removed. The communique was issued as part of events to mark the International Widows' Day. Correspondent Albert Sore has this report.
International Widows' Day is marked in June every year to draw attention to the plight of widows all over the world. Widows in the Upper East region marked the day this year with a march through the principal streets of Bolgatanga. They raised placards with various inscriptions, drawing the attention of government, traditional authorities, and other duty bearers to the problems faced by widows in the Upper East region. Led by the Widows and Orphans Movement, an NGO based in the Upper East region and working to promote, uphold, and protect the rights of widows and orphans, the march ended with a brief program where the widows discussed matters that affect them. Fatih Abigail Abdullahi is director of the Widows and Orphans Movement.
The Ghana Household Registry in 2018 did a survey that showed that 61% of widows that are employable are actually unemployed. Again, the same survey says that 3 out of 4 widows in the Upper East region are either poor or extremely poor. The Widows and Orphans Movement over the years, based on the work we've done, evidence shows that most of these poverty situations the women face is based on the widowhood rights and practices that they go through, which are injurious to them. So for instance, we still have widowhood rights where they say that a widow shouldn't consume the foodstuffs that she owned after the funeral, and these foodstuffs are shared to other family members. After this funeral, you realize that these widows and their children struggle to survive. And so it is on this basis that this year our theme is looking at sustainable solutions to ending widowhood rights.
The widows issued and presented a communique to the Upper East Regional House of Chiefs appealing for the abolishment of traditional widowhood rights that are injurious to widows and violate their fundamental human rights.
Widows are forced into participating in harmful and degrading practice where fowls are slaughtered on the head of the widow with blood oozing on her as a form of purification, leaving most widows traumatized and losing their self-confidence for the right of their lives. The Widows Network is calling on the Regional House of Chiefs and the Upper East Regional Minister to modify and/or abolish the following: conduct sacrifice using fowls on objects and not on the head of widows. Abolish all rights and widows and children consuming unhygienic food and concoction. Stop placing disease, little brackets, costs on the laps of firstborn children to prevent the transfer of disease.
Receiving a communique on behalf of the Upper East Regional House of Chiefs, the Paramount Chief of the Nangodi Traditional Area, NAP, Pariyong Kosom Asaga Yelizoya II, said he believed the House of Chiefs would seriously consider taking steps to modify and, where necessary, remove entirely the outmoded customary widowhood rights. For Joy News, Albert Sori, reporting from Bolgatanga.
Now, a new study conducted by the Kintampo Health Research Center in the Bono East region has revealed that inhaling smoke from firewood contributes to hypertension, pneumonia, and disruption of lung function. The study, titled Ghana Randomized Air Pollution Health Study, was initiated by the center in the year 2015 to assess the impact of household air pollution on people's health. My colleague Anas Sabit has been speaking with the head of the Environmental Health Research and lead researcher of the study, Dr. Suleimana Ouattara Abubakari. He came through with this report.
Globally, almost 3 billion people still rely on open fires or inefficient stoves to cook their food, filling their homes with dangerous levels of smoke. A recent study conducted by the Kintampo Health Research Center revealed that inhaling this form of smoke causes hypertension, pneumonia, and disruption of lung functioning. The study, titled Ghana Randomized Air Pollution Health Study, was to, amongst other things, assess the impact of household air pollution on people's health. Dr. Suleimana Ouattara Abubakari is the head of Environmental Health Research at the Kintampo Health Research Center and the lead researcher for the study.
In 2015, we did this work. That's a randomized controlled trial that we call it GRAPS, or Ghana Randomized Air Pollution and Health Survey. So in this survey, what we as researchers we sought to do was to look at the impact of household air pollution on women and also children. In fact, the children wanted to do a life cycle study, so wanted to even know before they were born whether household air pollution has some health effects on them.
Dr. Suleimana explained that the study used a population of 1,500 respondents, including pregnant women in the study area in the Kintampo North and South districts of the Bono East region.
What we did in this work was to give we had in all about 1,500 women, and we gave about 500 of them LPG cook stoves. And then for another 500, we gave an improved biomass stove, which was called BioLite. And then for the third group, we recruited women that use traditional stoves. So they more or less use whatever they use for cooking. And it's interesting, as researchers, we've been following up on this cohort. That's the women that we recruited when they were pregnant, about 24 weeks, and their children since 2015. So now their children are about 9 years, and we continue to follow up on them. So we realized that for those using the traditional cook stove, we saw that they tend to have a higher systolic blood pressure.
He advised that women who cook in large quantities should inculcate the habit of savings to purchase improved cook stoves to help prevent them from the risk of acquiring respiratory diseases in future.
As the women cook in commercial quantities, I think the advice is that they should be able to make some savings so that over time they are able to buy these improved cook stoves. I'm saying this because anecdotally, we live in the communities and we've realized that those who do this commercial cooking tend to, over time, fall down with stroke and other things that we all see very clearly.
Dr. Suleimana was, however, quick to laud government for the reduction in the prices of LPG and noted that government should further work on its cylinder recirculation module to help in its accessibility.
Currently, we always see prices of fuel going up, but I think the last increases that happened, we saw that the prices of LPG rather went down. And for me, we find two main variables or two main things that is making people not to change from the traditional cook stove to the use of clean stove. These two variables are mainly the cost. So in a way, that is what the government is addressing now. And then also distance. So hopefully the cylinder recirculation model that the government is also thinking of bringing it on board latest by the end of this year. If it comes on board, we'll bring LPG close to the doorstep of people. And that will also take out the distance barrier that we also see as researchers.
Anna Sabit, Joy News, Kintampo.
Now, desperate and pushed to the brink, she took a tough decision, a bold move into a male-dominated space, car cleaning. After years of working for others and not finding satisfaction, Felika Mahama, a graduate from the University of Development Studies, created a niche to meet the needs of residents in East Legon. Joy Prime's Emmanuel Jivenu went to meet her and files this fascinating report.
Give us 5 minutes, we'll be there.
Felika Mahama is a graduate of the University of Development Studies. She started a clerical work but was not satisfied with the job. She applied to be a marketing agent. Then she hit the runway as a model. Poor remuneration forced her to reconsider other options.
I worked with like 4 companies. One was an IT company. They develop and market computer softwares. From there, I moved to a shipping company. Then I joined a startup. I also did a bit of modeling for some few years. I joined the Forestry Commission, Youth in Afforestation. I was also with them for about 3 years. I left there last year. I got tired of everything and I decided to start Park and Bright, the mobile car wash.
Felika took a bold decision to be her own boss and also venture into a male-dominated space, car washing. Felika identified a huge gap in the car cleaning industry. To stand out in an unfamiliar terrain, she tailored her services to meet the needs of the working class. If you are too busy to send your car for cleaning, Felika has got you covered.
The reason behind why it's a mobile car wash, COVID came and then I saw that now everything is based on delivery services. So I thought to myself, a lot of people are always too tired or busy to go to the washing bay. So why don't I take my services to them?
Gender stereotyping appears to be a significant issue obstructing the career progression of many women. But Felika is braving the odds and changing the narrative.
It hasn't been so bad. I have so little people who haven't been nice, but the majority are always so nice. They are always excited seeing me doing the work.
She has received a request. With the help of her cousin, Sadiq, she maneuvers through town with ease. Park and Bright Mobile Car Wash renders services within the catchment area of East Legon.
Hello, customer. Good morning. Hi. I'm fine. Okay. So when we are done, okay.
With dexterity, she uses the prep gun to wash off dirt and other particles on the vehicle's surface.
I did first with the car was to blow the dirt off the car before shampooing the car. If not, normally when the car is dirty, you have particles of stones, and it can destroy or scratch the car.
Felika keeps receiving requests while on the wash, some to places beyond her catchment area.
So now we are about to do the interior, and with the interior, I have already washed my cloth. I'll use the cloth to wash off all the dust, the dirt from the car. Bring the surface back to life. This is what you do.
Park and Bright leaves the interior of vehicles spick and span, and also smelling fresh. But it is more expensive than the regular car wash shops.
So after this, you can tell the difference from this to that. Around East Legon, the price ranges from 30 to 100 cedis, depending on the distance, the size of your car, and how dirty the car is. Yeah, but for a car like this, we'll be taking 30 cedis.
I saw them around, and I decided to try them, and I've not regretted. Their service is so superb. From that time, I've lost appetite going to the washing bay.
On an average, Felika is able to wash 6 cars in a day. But with the constant car breakdown and hikes in fuel price, she fears the economy may soon constrict her out of business.
Thanks
so much.
Thank you too for patronizing us.
You're welcome.
Hoping to hear from you soon. Okay. Bye.
Even in the face of hardship, Felika, Mahama, and Park and Bright have their eyes fixed on the goal, brightening more cars in Accra and beyond. Emmanuel Chivenu's report for Joy Prime.
Now, there's a new sheriff in town. That's the warning by the newly sworn-in GJA President Albert Kwabena Jumfo to individuals who violate the rights of journalists. He has also assured the Ghana Journalists Association will begin engaging relevant bodies to improve the pay slips of practicing journalists. The new executive of the GJA were today sworn in by the Justice of the Court of Appeal, Justice George Kingsley Kumpson, marking the dawn of a new day. Here is Albert Kwabena Jumfo speaking to journalists right after the ceremony.
The current support regime for members who may suffer such harm is weak. In order to address this challenge, we propose to set up a journalist support fund with the support of our development partners. One of the key objects of the fund will be to offer legal services to journalists whose right may be violated in line of duty. The era when journalists were assaulted but do not get justice due to lack of funds to pursue legal action will soon become history. So let me issue a note of warning to people who take unrighteous liberty to assault journalists that there is a new sheriff in town who will go to any length within the law to protect his comrades. Mr. Chairman, the Journalist Support Fund will also help to offer training and workshops on safety and security for our members in order to enhance their personal security and safety. In due course, we shall announce details of the Journalist Support Fund and its implementation, and I'm going to lead this project myself. Professional development. Journalism is dynamic and it keeps changing in its practice. To keep members in tune with changing trends in the profession, we must continue to learn. To this end, we will institute a periodic journalist summer camp. This will be an exchange program aimed at training journalists in modern practices and techniques. Professor Chairman, we will also explore scholarship opportunities for journalists who may wish to upgrade themselves or further their education. This will be done in collaboration with relevant bodies. In the upcoming days, my team will be engaging some of these bodies to discuss the way forward. Salary regime for journalists. One of the major worries of many journalists is their salary. We cannot deny the fact that journalists are among the low-income earners in Ghana.
Now, Germany played host this week to the world's richest democracies, the G7, as leaders gathered in a Bavarian mountain resort to discuss the problems they all face. Most of all, the war in Ukraine and its many consequences. To get a better understanding of the impact of the summit, let's cross over to William Glucroft in Berlin. He's a correspondent with our partner, Deutsche Welle. William, it's good to speak to you. What proposals did these leaders put forward?
Well, you know, in short, money, lots and lots of money. Without getting lost in the numbers, these 7 countries were pledging tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars for various programs for various countries or groups of countries all around the world. Everything from stabilizing food security, stabilizing energy prices, support for Ukraine, and seeing to long-term reconstruction in Ukraine, saying that they will do what it takes and be supporting Ukraine for as long as it takes to fight the Russian invasion there, pledging hundreds of billions of dollars for what they call sustainable economic development to help developing countries, poorer nations, continue to develop their economies in a way that is also compatible with climate goals. And, of course, climate goals themselves, saying that they're sticking to the long-term commitments in the Paris Agreement, for example. Now, the problem here is there's lots of contradictions. For example, Germany is currently standing against or standing in the way of the European Union's efforts to do away with the combustion engine for cars. So, on one hand, they're talking about committing to climate goals, climate action. On the other hand, there's many domestic issues here in Germany that's causing a bit of contradictions here. Same thing with what the G7 promised about more sanctions against Russia. This might run into problems with what the EU is looking to do or has already done when it comes to oil price caps and other kinds of restrictions on the Russian economy. So while all these groups are broadly in tune with each other, there's some details here that are competing with each other.
Right. Let's look at how this impacts countries outside the G7, countries like ours.
Well, the G7 likes to portray itself as looking out for the world, not just looking out for themselves as rich countries, but trying to help other countries along the way. Germany made that point by inviting countries like Argentina, South Africa, Senegal, India, Indonesia to the G7 as so-called partner countries to show, to sort of stand them up as symbols of democracy, as symbols of countries that the West can work with to develop those respective regions. And of course, there's politics at play here, especially when it comes to India and Indonesia. They're trying to peel India away from Russia. India has not been really on board with the sanctions against Russia and stopping oil supplies, for example, to India. Indonesia hosts the G20, the sort of the bigger version of the G7 later this year, and there's a big controversy about whether Vladimir Putin will be invited to that summit or not. Some are saying he will, some are saying he won't, some are saying he'll only come via a video call. So there's an effort here to sort of bring your people in conflict even closer to you, to give them reason to see your side of things, so to speak, in addition to these lofty promises of economic development and reaching climate goals and working together on those points. There's, of course, very much geopolitical concerns at stake here.
Now, G7 meetings have been happening, for such a long time. It's not the first one. What's different about this one?
Well, of course, this is a club of countries that likes to appear very relaxed, very chummy with each other. They always meet at picturesque locations at whatever their host country is in one of these 7 countries. But of course, it's coming against the backdrop of the largest war in Europe since World War II, against extreme economic uncertainty, the highest inflation we've seen in decades, real economic concerns here that's going to cost a lot of money and might, especially here in Germany, that's very sensitive to spending and very sensitive to debt, might push finances and stress national finances really to the brink. And at the same time, we're having a NATO Summit, where about every 10 years NATO gets together and reviews what they call as their strategic concept. The last one was in 2010. Now they're coming out with their new one, and it basically aligns NATO's military goals to the security situation that it sees. Of course, 10, 12 years ago, Russia was not a threat that it is today, and they didn't even see China as a potential threat. And so NATO, the G7, the EU, all of these Western institutions are broadly in agreement on where they want to go, but they all have their small details on how they actually want to get there in terms of sanctions, in terms of confronting larger powers such as Russia and China, and finding agreement among these massive different organizations is the real challenge here.
The ever-changing face of the global big picture. Thank you so much, William. That's William Glucroft from our partners, Deutsche Welle. Thank you very much for staying with us. It's been The Pulse. Of course, don't forget, Let's Talk Showbiz comes up right after these messages from our partners. In the meantime, you can check out all the biggest stories on myjoyonline.com. It's been such a pleasure spending the afternoons with you. My name is Kojo Yankson. Have a wonderful